Next stop everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS, of course, once again to talk part one of our two-part Series 12 finale with my wonderful co-host, all-around wonderful person, and someone I'm very proud to declare one of my best friends, Jesse Jackson.
Well, Charles, I just want to say it is a joy to work with someone who always thinks of the glass half full, sunshine, and I love working with you as well.
Yep, we're glasses half full here.
Yes, we
at
are.
Next Stop Everywhere, you especially.
Oh, thank you.
I just try to live up to your standard. So
yes.
All right. So now that we've done like kissing each other's butts,
but I'm going to give you a
yes
episode discussion warning. There is a hint of Captain Grumpy in this episode discussion.
Well, hopefully
just a hint.
Hopefully I can head him off somehow.
Okay. Very good.
We'll find out. We'll stay tuned.
Okay.
All right. So with Captain Grumpy lurking in the background, always ready to pop his head out from whatever place he's hiding from. We're going to hear at episode 173, we're talking Ascension of the Cybermen. And I kind of like the A's are kind of being associated in the words with Cybermen, kind of like Attack of the Cybermen back in the day. So maybe Chibnall's kind of associating A's the kind of the way R's are associated with Daleks, like Revelation of the Daleks, Resurrection of the Daleks, and so on. So this was aired just a few days ago on February 23rd, 2020. Written, of course, by Chris Chibnall, showrunner, directed by Jamie Magnus Stone, who directed the Series 12 opener, Spyfall Part 1, and also the episode Praxeus, as well as next week's episode, The Timeless Children. And this is, of course, the 9th episode of Series 12, starring, of course, Jodie Whittaker, Bradley Walsh, Tosin Cole, and Mandeep Gill. And very curious about your thoughts about this one, especially since you referenced Captain Grumpy. And hopefully, for the most part, I hope you liked this one.
Yeah, so my grumpiness is... this felt incomplete, and I understand it's a two-parter,
right?
But there are two-parters that feel really good,
right?
And you're excited about seeing the second half, and there's ones where you feel like they've cut a movie in half, and it does not feel like a self-contained
story
episode.
Yeah.
Yes, story.
Yeah, I think that's what the case is here. Is that it's essentially it's a 2-hour story chopped right in half.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because at this point we are editing, we're reviewing half a story. I remember way back in the Dark Ages, we were at a convention, and it was the original Dark Knight was being published. That's how long ago it was.
Yes.
And only two issues had been out.
You're talking Batman: The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller.
Frank Miller,
yes.
Yeah. And we were discussing after only 2 episodes, and someone said, this is really not fair, because we are trying to review and judge a work of art that's not finished, and we all agreed with that, but that's all we had. So us being fanboys, what we did is we discussed it,
Right.
So I know that right up front, and I realized that I may, when we give our ratings, I may go back proactively next week and give it a higher rating. But for now,
maybe this should be like a pending rating.
Yes, I think that's what this feels,
a temporary
more
rating.
frustrating than satisfying of an episode. This is a frustrating episode. How about you, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I get it. This is essentially, like you said, part one of a two-part story. It's incomplete. So I guess we could just give it incomplete grades, but
that's not how we roll.
No, and and it shouldn't be, because I think, given the our format, I think it's possible that we could just talk about this, speculate what's going to happen, possibly in the conclusion in next week's episode, and then next week we'll see if we're right or not.
Absolutely. Well said.
All right. So let's talk about this thing, right? Guest cast this time. Of course, we have the return of Patrick O'Kane. That's a cool name, right? Patrick O'Kane. As Ashad, the lone Cyberman. And, of course, making his return from the previous episode, The Haunting of Villa Diodati, that we talked about last week. Sacha Dhawan makes a nice little cameo return at the very end of this episode. Of course, after his debut in Spyfall at the beginning of the season. And we got Ian McElhinney, who you and I, Jesse, have talked about previously on the Fandom Zone, because he played the character Val-El on Krypton. And that was obviously when we were talking Krypton on that show, on the Fandom Zone podcast. But of course, since you were on the Game of Thrones podcast, which one was that called? I forget. The Council of
the Small Council Matters.
Small Council Matters. Thank you very much. And so, of course, Game of Thrones fans know him as Sir Barristan Selmy, who was very cool in that show until, of course, he sadly got killed.
Yeah.
Because, hey, he's on Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
And he's also turned up recently in the movie Rogue One, playing the pre-Star Wars version of the original Star Wars character, General Dodonna.
Ah, very nice.
So I thought that was kind of cool that he's been in like the Star Wars franchise, the Game of Thrones franchise. He was got a DC Comics connection, and now Doctor Who.
Yeah, and
that's a pretty good geek resume there.
He always, I think, brings something to the role.
Gravitas.
We really liked him in Krypton.
Yeah.
And I liked him in this. It was not a big role, but it was significant enough that I thought they did a good job of casting him. I'm glad they're able to have him join the team, and it was just really good to see him, and I thought his was an interesting character.
Yeah, hopefully we get a lot more of him next episode. Because, you have somebody like, the quality of Ian McElhinney, and you want to use him, I would think.
Yes, absolutely.
So hopefully he gets a chance to shine next episode. We also had Julie Graham, who played a character named Ravio. And if you're a fan of the Sarah Jane Adventures, you might remember her from playing the character Ruby White in the Sarah Jane Adventures story Goodbye, Sarah Jane Smith.
Okay.
If she looks a little familiar. And she also did a Big Finish audio adventure not too long ago, a Seventh Doctor one called The Blood Furnace, where she played a character named Carolyn. And she was also in the BBC series Survivors, a remake of that series, and she was pretty good in that one. It was kind of like the BBC's version of Lost a little bit in that show, with a little hint of The Walking Dead thrown in there for good measure. And she's also in the movie Jupiter Ascending.
Oh.
If you've seen that movie.
And I assume her character in that story in Sarah Jane Smith was one of the Elton John's influences on Goodbye Norma Jean.
Or Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Yes.
That whole thing.
Yes.
Um,
I was thinking of the song he did for Lady Diana's funeral.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You mean Candle in the Wind?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
where he remade that with different lyrics for the funeral.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An actor named Steve Toussaint played Fecat. That was the older black gentleman, one of the survivors of the human race that ended up getting killed. He's been in the movie Judge Dredd, and that's the Sylvester Stallone one.
Okay.
From the 90s. And he was also in Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, and also on CSI Miami.
Got it.
For people here in the States. Matt Carver played Ethan. Alex Austin played Yadrami. Rhiannon Clements played Bescott. Some of those, like survivors of the human race that kind of get paired up with the doctor and the fam through the course of the story. And then Evan McCabe played Brendan, from our mystery person from 20th Century Ireland, who we're definitely going to talk about. He was recently in the series Berlin Station, if you're familiar at all with that show.
I have not. I am familiar with
I have
not watched it.
I want to say that's on Stars, maybe.
Yeah, Stars.
I think
Epic, one of those.
Yeah,
yes.
one of those networks, premium cable networks. But I know I didn't watch the show, so I'm not familiar with him. But I know he's recently in that. So,
okay.
Some trivia before we get into our topics. This is only one of 11 television stories where the TARDIS does not appear at all.
That is a good
bit of trivia.
Doctor Who convention drinking game.
Exactly.
That is a nice thing to do, right?
If they ever come out with a Doctor Who Trivial Pursuit game, which I really wish they would.
Oh yeah, that would be so much fun.
Because I would destroy at that.
Yes.
At least I'd like to think so. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not enough of a fan. But yeah, this is only 11. The other stories, in case you're curious, are Mission to the Unknown from the Hartnell era, the Silurians from the Jon Pertwee era, the Mind of Evil from the Jon Pertwee era, the Daemons, the Sea Devils, also from the Jon Pertwee era, which makes sense because he was exiled on Earth.
Right.
The Sontaran Experiment from the Tom Baker era, Genesis of the Daleks from the Tom Baker era, and then not all the way until midnight with David Tennant, then The Lie of the Land from Peter Capaldi's era, and then finally The Woman Who Fell to Earth, Jodie Whittaker's first story.
Okay.
So that's it. So if you ever want to try to stump a Doctor Who fan, that's a good little bit of trivia to throw out.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then also I just want to mention really quickly that it was kind of funny because that Ireland finally shows up in Doctor Who. And I'm going to talk about that more when we talk about Brendan. But this is the first time we really got to see Ireland in Doctor Who. So as someone of Irish descent, I was geeking out about that pretty hard. And I kind of think it's kind of funny that Gallifrey shows up in this episode at the very end because there's kind of like a little bit of a running gag throughout Doctor Who where Gallifrey, like the Doctor mentions that he or she is from Gallifrey, and normal people from Earth seem a bit confused by that reference, and they're like, "Oh, is that in Ireland?"
Yeah.
So that kind of that little in joke showed up in the Hand of Fear, the final Sarah Jane story from the Tom Baker era, also the Invisible Enemy, and then Human Nature from David Tennant's era.
Oh, so, very nice. Okay, good.
So I just throwing that out there, getting my little Who geek on.
So I will save that.
Okay. All right.
I have an Irish connection later.
Oh,
we'll
excellent.
Talk about.
Excellent. Nothing wrong with that. Highly recommended by yours truly, of course. Yeah. 4 topics this time. I don't have a theme.
Okay.
But I kind of tried to break this up into storylines.
Makes sense.
Okay. To try to organize it a little bit. So, topic number 1, let's talk about the Doctor. Let's talk about Ryan. who gets paired up with the Doctor after getting left behind, after being separated. Ethan, who also gets paired up. The mysterious Sharmus in this segment. Let's talk about Sharmus. And the Master. We might as well throw in the Master in this one because the Master shows up at the very end to confront the Doctor.
Yes.
So first and foremost, let's talk about the Doctor. What did you make of the Doctor in this rather tense episode?
So the Doctor has been very angry and stressed over the past 2 or so episodes. And
I'd argue longer.
Yeah.
I'd argue since she found out that Gallifrey was destroyed.
You know what? I think I will agree with that statement. As
a
season
story arc.
Yeah. I also think that she's really been she is worried on steroids after she has messed things up, and now she's trying to fix all the mess up things she did with the Cybermen. So that's
yeah. I mean, she did it for good intentions.
Yes,
she did it
absolutely.
to save Percy Shelley and keep the timeline consistent. So
yeah,
I mean, I call that a half win at least.
Yeah.
But the consequences, are a little disturbing. Yeah.
So here's my first Monday morning writing critique.
Well, Wednesday evening, technically.
Yes. Yes.
Pulling back the curtain.
You talked about last episode. The implication was she was remembering Bill and Bill becoming a Cyberman.
Right.
When she is talking to the fam, and telling them they've got to go, she's been too loose with them. I can't remember the exact word she used, but I've been too casual.
Yes.
You are all humans. You guys could be things. It would have added a little something to me if she had said, I had a previous friend, Bill, that happened to, and I will not see this happen again. And maybe storyline, it doesn't make sense, but it would have added a little bit of, I would have gone, oh yes, they paid off what we thought they were implying.
Yeah.
And maybe it's better for it to be subtle, but I would have liked, and when I watched the episode a second time this afternoon, I would, is she thinking about Bill? Is she thinking about, other
she's thinking about more because, there was Adric from the classic era.
Yeah.
Who died because of what the Cybermen did. Not like a full conversion like what happened to Bill. But and then Danny Pink also ended up dead. So, I think it's a number of things. And I also think, she made this comment that she said, look, you're human, you can be converted into Cybermen.
Yeah.
Because they've kind of established that because for whatever reason the Doctor is a Time Lord, the Doctor cannot be converted. Yeah. Which kind of explains why the Cybermen don't just grab her and or any other previous Doctor and convert them into a Cyberman.
And so instead of I think it would have been said, I think it would have been nice if she'd said, I've lost people before to the Cybermen.
Right.
And I think that would have been a nice nod.
But the Doctor is very reluctant to talk about his or her past traditionally.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
And I realize for story purposes, you don't want to. You understand that every season could be someone's first season.
Right.
Every episode could be someone's first episode. So you don't want to overburden them with past continuity.
Yeah, backstory,
Yeah, so I get that. I just thought it would have been nice.
That's fair.
She's... I don't know if I like this version of the Doctor.
The darker version?
Yeah, the darker and more frantic version.
Yeah.
She still has.
Well, she's scrambling a little bit here.
Yeah, she still has a sharp tongue,
Mm-hmm.
and she's still very confident, but it feels a little more like, I'm thinking of the phrase where you aren't really that confident and you're faking it till you make it, or you are putting on a brave face even though you may be doubting. There's a touch of that this time versus the normal confident doctor. So I think that's one of the reasons why I find this episode a little unsatisfying. Your thoughts?
My thoughts, I get where you're coming from. I really do. The doctor, like I said, I think is scrambling a little bit here. Because remember, we're coming right off of the haunting of Villa Diodati, where we talked about that the doctor had to give up the Cyberium to save Shelley, preserve the timeline. But, even after Jack's warning via the companions to the doctor that, don't give the lone Cyberman what he wants. And then she turns around and does exactly that. And, she talked about how she had, that was plan A. Plan B is trying to figure out how I can recover from plan A.
Yeah.
And so as a result, she's desperate, I think, at this point to stop Ashad, the lone Cyberman.
Right.
And, and the Cyberman seemed to have an upper hand here. Especially with humanity all but wiped out in this time, whatever time we are in, some point in the distant future.
Right.
And it, so I think she feels like she's kind of on her heels a little bit here.
Yeah, I think so.
Which makes for great conflict.
Yes.
Because, you don't want to make things too easy for your hero. And the harder the challenge is for your hero or heroine to overcome, it feels that much more sweeter when they finally eventually triumph.
And I guess, I totally get where you're coming from. And right. I think I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's how you see things. And I think I'm seeing it from a story viewpoint. Yeah, and I think viewing it from your viewpoint actually makes a lot more sense than my emotional viewpoint of seeing it. But
no, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
though.
I understand.
I mean, that's your reaction as a viewer, and that's natural.
Yeah. So I'm just so glad you have the other option. But I'm thinking of specifically Matt Smith on that roof.
Right.
And he's telling the big monster, right? Yeah. This is Earth. Look at me in the past. Look what has happened. And River Song telling to the Daleks, my name is River Song, review what that means.
Yes.
And with Jodie saying, check the Cyberium, I've defeated you in the past. It just did not come across as heroic. It came across a little more it feels like she's faking it because she is so scrambling is a good word for it.
Yeah. I mean, that could have been also the problems with the director.
Yeah.
Not getting what needed to be. I mean, we don't really know because without knowing what's in the script, how she was supposed to be behaving.
Yeah.
In that scene. So we don't know if it was just Jodie having a different approach to the scene, or the director didn't direct and give Jodie guidance on how she should play that scene, or what. So all we have is like that. So I guess I'm not trying to excuse.
No. And I think that's I think if I want to give Jodie the credit, that's how she's chosen. She knows the doctor is scrambling. The doctor is figuring out plan B as she goes. She knows she possibly screwed up, but that she saw no other alternative. And like she talked about last episode, sometimes even I can't find an alternate way.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes I can't win, she said.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think to play that underlying lack of confidence and concern is a very brave choice. And it is a brave choice to see the doctor. I just tend to want my doctor to be a little more confident.
Yeah.
Once again, though.
Yeah, but there's confidence and then there's cockiness.
Yes.
And Tennant's doctor, the 10th Doctor, tended to fall into the cocky side.
And
the arrogant side.
So I do think that depending on how they stick the landing, and how she ultimately wins, I think this win will be even more satisfying because they have shown us how much the Doctor has struggled to try to earn that victory.
Right. I certainly hope so. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Right.
But it's just we'll see. And then that was kind of interesting with Ryan, that Ryan ends up paired with the Doctor after getting left behind.
Yes.
So I kind of wondered if this was a development that maybe there's a reason why Ryan was left with the Doctor, to kind of have more exposure. Possibly in the especially in the second episode, because if this is indeed Tosin Cole's last episode, as has been rumored since he's supposedly doing a show in the States, we'll find out.
Yeah.
But because obviously they haven't addressed any of the companions coming back, like Jodie Whittaker has announced she's coming back next season.
Yes.
But none of the companions have. So their fates at this moment are kind of up in the air. So I kind of view like scenes with Ryan, and we'll talk about Yaz and Graham later. I'm kind of like really focused in, looking for any clues about their fates. Are they going to set up something here and then write them out, or what? So I'm kind of, I'm very kind of concerned about this. So when I see the Doctor getting paired up with Ryan, I kind of wonder if there's a reason for that. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that's a really good theory, Charles. And I think it is worth mentioning that with us knowing what's going on behind the scenes, and not knowing is a better word.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like we have any special insight, unfortunately. Although, Chibnall, call me. No. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's it's good. I loved the interaction that she was very unhappy that he's there.
Yeah.
And he was defending himself. Look, I didn't do this deliberately. I'm trying to do the right things. And I did like.
That's a really good point, by the way.
Yeah, I like seeing, as much as I am on the record loving the full TARDIS.
Yes.
It was nice to see him have a little solo time with the Doctor.
Right. Yeah, because you don't really get to see. I mean, of all the companions, I think it's safe to say that the Doctor has kind of spent the most time with Graham.
Yes, it seems like it.
But so it's kind of nice to see Ryan or Yaz when they get their little moment in the sun. And so I think you made a good point by saying that with Ryan, the Doctor trying desperately to make sure her companions are away, safe.
Yeah. And
Ryan kind of disappoints her.
Yes.
Because he's not away. He got separated from the others. Now, it wasn't his fault. It was this, because Ashad and the Cybermen show up, his Cybermen bodyguards. So maybe the Doctor is thinking, I'm not liking where this is going.
Yeah.
So now on top of everything else, I have to worry about protecting Ryan.
And I want to go back to what you just mentioned about Graham spending so much time with the Doctor.
Right.
Is there a reason why? And I'm sure that will be discussed in an upcoming discussion point in one of your
topics.
Topics.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Sharmus.
Okay.
No, we talked a little bit about Ian McElhinney, um, but just you thought he was a cool character when we first talked about him. Any other thoughts about Sharmus? They being this guy who apparently sacrificed his entire life to make sure that if anybody else, any other human showed up, he could get them sent through the boundary to safety. Pretty selfless.
First off, I love the reveal that it wasn't a place, it was a person.
Right.
Had a little concern that he was hiding something and he wasn't what he seemed to be in part of the episode, but I was glad to see as of right now, he is truly someone who has sacrificed their lives to try to help humanity live.
Yeah, I didn't. I got no ulterior vibe going.
Okay,
from
I
this
was
guy.
Just a little worried about that at
no,
first.
with Doctor Who, it's certainly a possibility.
Yeah,
not knowing who to trust. Some new character shows up, you're like, okay, what's this deal? Like, is he a good guy or a bad guy?
Yeah.
So,
so I really liked that. I loved the way he played surprise that there were that many alive. I loved his reveal when toward the very end of the episode, and we will get to this topic, where through the portal you see Gallifrey and he's like, it hasn't looked like that before. And then you're like, okay, did the Time Lord radiation change the vibe of the portal or something, so what it tuned it to a different place or something, I don't know.
Or did it, or was, like, maybe we don't know that the capital, the Gallifreyan capital wasn't destroyed when the last time that he saw it, maybe.
Yeah. Good point. Yes.
So we don't know. But but yeah, he's a pretty enigmatic character. Like I said, I don't get anything, underhanded, sneaky so far.
Good.
He seems like he's face value what he seems to be he appears to be what he is on the box, I guess.
Okay, good.
All right. Lastly, let's talk about the Master. It's not much to talk about because he just kind of showed up at the very end in a cameo. But shows up very flamboyant once again. Very cocky, smiling broadly. This particular incarnation of the Master seems to be a bit influenced by DC Comics' The Joker, if I'm not mistaken. In appearance, if nothing else.
I think that's a fair
in personality.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I felt like and I realized they wanted the surprise. They wanted a cameo. They wanted as a cliffhanger ending.
Yes.
But it just felt a little tired to me. Like, oh, everything you know is a lie, and we're saying that again.
Yeah.
And I'm a little impatient with, okay, then show me that's a lie. I'm ready for the reveal.
Yeah,
and so.
Well, I mean, they're trying to make it. They're trying to build up anticipation, but I mean, I get it. This is something they've been teasing since Spyfall.
Yes.
That the Master knows more than he's telling.
Right.
Deliberately trying to keep the Doctor vague about it, and then only to well, I'll be back at the season finale, so then I'll lay all this on you.
Yeah, and I just would have liked, once again, here I am, Wednesday afternoon.
Yes.
Quarterbacking.
Yes.
I would have had him do some other kind of line.
Yeah.
Like, hey, did you miss me? Hey, honey, I'm home. Or some kind of clever line that wasn't necessarily a reference to,
everything you know is a lie. Yes.
Yeah, everything, okay, yes, you've established that. I would have liked to seen something else.
Yeah, everything about it is going to change forever.
Yeah.
At least until we change it all again at some future point. So, yeah, I mean, I get that. I guess maybe Chibnall felt he had to do something. I don't know.
Sure. And you know what? I'm okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
It wasn't. It wasn't a deal breaker. It's just
no, and that's why I am self-aware.
I think I agree with you though. I think less would have been more.
Yes.
Where you should have just had the master standing there smiling.
Yes.
I think that would just him with that little, maniacal smile, like I know more than you do right now, but I'm not telling you. If he just said nothing, I think it would have been a little bit more powerful.
Or even hello, doctor.
Yeah.
Kind of in his best Seinfeld Newman
or
voice.
something like, "What took you so long?" Something like that.
Yes, exactly. Right. I am looking forward to the payoff. I think that, and I have faith, unlike some people that have not been, and I don't mean you, I mean other fandom have been very vocal about being unhappy with Chibnall and his choice. I think he's done a decent job, and I feel like I trust him enough that he's going to pay off well.
Yep.
With everything that he's got balls in the air.
Let's certainly hope so, because we do have the next week's the season finale, so hopefully he can stick the landing, and hopefully we'll be okay. All right. Yeah. Let's move on. Topic number 2. Let's talk about Graham Yaz.
That was only the first topic?
That was only, I know. Well, yeah, we got to get moving, right? Yeah. Well, there's a lot to cover.
All
right, we'll try to rush through the other ones. Yes. So, yeah, Graham Yaz. We can talk about Ravio and the others if you want. But primarily Graham and Yaz in this one. So, Graham and Yaz, because of the being separated, because of when the Cybermen show up, they end up getting on this spaceship and, basically hiding out with the last surviving humans, and end up going off into space on a flying Frisbee spaceship. And they're not quite sure where to go, because they talk about on the journey that, oh, hey, we're going to go look for the boundary. Well, that's great. What's the boundary? And talking about how, oh, hey, the boundary, it's this place where, it's kind of like a refugee place for humans where we'll be safe from the Cybermen. They can't find us.
Yeah.
So, Yaz and Graham, like, well, we've got people behind. We need to stay for them. But so they're going against their will. They end up out in space. They end up in like a kind of like the remains of a huge battle with the Cybermen. There's all these floating pieces of Cybermen in space, little parts, chunks of Cybermen, arms, legs, heads, whatever. Yeah. And they kind of keep battering the ship. What did you make of that?
That was a cool visual.
What did you make of all that? Did you like that little Cyberman graveyard there?
I did. I like that little. I like that. I like them being on the ship. I'm gonna hold off because. But side note, when we go to the topic of Ireland, I'm gonna go back to. This, I felt, storyline could have been expanded.
Yes.
I would have liked to spend more time with these remaining survivors on the cyborg ship. It was threatening. It was creepy. It was good seeing them be heroes. Side note, but Jane Espenson from Buffy and Lost and all these other things, talks about that if you're doing a spec script or if you're just writing a script whatsoever, one of the things you should do is find two characters that don't normally interact with each other a lot and have them interact, and you'll get fresh dynamics.
Yes.
It's always Graham and Ryan. Always Graham and Ryan. To have, and then it's Ryan and Yaz.
Yes.
Ryan and Yaz. To have Graham and Yaz was for a nice, fresh perspective.
Yes.
It shows how much he's grown. She compliments on that.
Yeah, she makes the comment. Yeah, she makes the comment about it. Like, look how far you've come, Graham O'Brien. And she kind of hugs his arm all adoringly, and I really like that.
And there is I do not read as many Star Trek novels as I used to back when they first came out. If there was a new Star Trek paperback, I read it. And there was one, I cannot remember.
I hope you read Strange New
title.
Worlds too, since yours truly had a story in it.
I did and loved it.
Okay. Just checking.
So, but there is a scene that set during the very first Enterprise mission, and James Kirk's father, and there is
George Kirk. Yeah.
There is the Enterprise is in dry dock, and something goes wrong, and everyone is like, okay, we can't fix it. We're gonna have to let whatever happens, and therefore it will delay us getting in space for 6 months or 9 months. I don't remember the details, but I remember him going, no, what if you don't fix this? You're going to die. What's the answer? And they come up with an answer. And when I was in a meeting with my new job, and they were like, a couple of my people were like, I don't know. I said, okay, the owner is going to come in, and if we don't have a plan before we leave this room, he's going to fire us. What's the plan? To kind of give them a fresh perspective. Right. And Graham going, look, we're done anyway. Yeah. Don't you just want to go out fighting? And for them to come up with, well, we could vent the air and do that, was really an enjoyable scene. I was on the edge of my seat, like, yes, this is the way to think, and creativeness. That was just a really beautiful kind of combination of the new characters, Graham and Yaz. I just really loved that whole sequence of events.
Yeah, you had this one character, Yedlarmi, who is being super negative. And Graham is just like calling him out, going, look, we're not gonna survive by just feeling sorry for ourselves here. We have to kind of do something. We have to step up, so everybody give me your best ideas here. And so it was kind of nice to see Graham in that leadership role. Because, he's the oldest companion, and so he's the kind of the senior member. Obviously, Yaz could have done it just as well as Graham did, but it was kind of nice to see Graham, who, and I think this is why Yaz complimented him. Of initially starting off, Graham was kind of the more reluctant of the companions, the traveler.
Yes. And the more passive.
Yeah, and the more passive, just a little bit, kind of like, little side-eyeing everything, and kind of bursting that kind of optimism bubble of the Doctor a little bit. So now it kind of flips it on its head, where Graham has to step up and kind of do what the Doctor does, be the optimistic one, the kind of inspirational one, to get people moving and motivated so that they can get themselves out of this particular jam they're in.
Yeah. And so I've got to ask you.
Yes.
I think, there is, the internet is aflutter.
Oh, they always
about
are.
Him going, hi, I am the Doc.
Yeah, he says that.
The most ordinary person you ever see.
Yeah, he starts to say, what appears to be hot, like, look, I'm the Doctor, and he starts, he cuts himself off at, look, I'm the Doc, and then he cuts himself off. Now, the question I have is that something legitimate? Was that intentional, or was that just Bradley Walsh, the actor, kind of screwing up his line a little bit and then trying to recover, and then them not doing anything about that when they edited this thing together? What do you think?
So here's my theory.
Okay. You understand where I'm coming from, right?
My theory is, yes, I totally do.
Yeah.
And
like if he flipped his line a little bit.
We fans will make a mountain out of a molehill.
Mm-hmm.
So here is what my theory is, and it's a wild theory.
Go for it.
This
is why we're here.
Graham knows they're in a bad place, but he has traveled enough with the doctor that he knows the phrase, "Hi, I'm the doctor,
Right.
and I'm here to help," is a way to bring confidence to the situation.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was thinking, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And then, nope, I don't have the courage to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do
So do you
that.
think? So
Like,
do you
he
think it was
was
kind of
thinking this was-
rephrasing what the doctor might say, so that he could kind
Yes.
of, like pretend to kind of be the doctor in that particular moment?
Right. As in, okay, we got this. Get this. I'm the doctor, and I'm here to take care of you. I'm the doctor, and I'm your best hope for success. I am the doctor, and I am the answer to your problems. And I think he was going, and then he realized, no, I don't know if I want to say that, but he didn't. Then he changed it.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
That's a good
of
theory.
What he was doing, and kind of caught himself in mid-sketch.
I think that's a good theory. I think that's probably it. Is that I think you're right. I think that he was trying to be the doctor in that moment, and maybe he just for a split second got a little too caught up in his doctor fantasy, and stopped himself. Like, look, no, I'm not the doctor. I'm Graham. Right, Graham.
And
Graham.
I'm going to go right out there and say, yeah. I do not believe he is the doctor. I think that is a joke they have made a couple of times.
Yeah.
If they had not brought us, they have not already introduced another doctor character.
Right.
I may have thought about, okay, that would be a nice twist, but that's just way too many reveals within reveals within reveals.
Yeah, it's a little too. It's a little too meta, personally.
Yeah,
what I think, what I also think it is that it's kind of a little tweak of the fans, the ones that, or the so-called fans, the ones that are like, well, if it's like a picture of the Doctor and her companions, the 13th Doctor and her companions, if it's like, these so-called fans would say, well, I don't see all I see are companions here, or, I guess, Graham must be the Doctor because he's the older white male. So, just so I think maybe it's a little dig on them to kind of have Graham kind of in that Doctor role for just a brief moment in time.
I agree.
I don't know.
Good.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
Okay.
just throwing that possibility out there. All right. Anything else about these characters?
No, like I said,
they had that little cliffhanger where the Cybermen are basically banging on the door, trying to get into the control center, and not looking good for our companions.
Yeah, and I really liked that reveal that they're in a Cyberman transport ship.
Yes.
And that they go, oh my goodness, they start doing the math of how many levels and what do they see. I thought that was really well done. And holy moly, we're in a bad place.
Yeah.
And I liked that a lot. I thought that was a really good
cliffhanger.
I like the whole and the whole calling the doctor,
right.
calling the doctor. So it was good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Topic number 3.
Okay.
As we try to move along, let's talk about Brendan in 20th century Ireland. So I'm sure a lot of people were confused by this. Understandable, but try to keep in mind this is part 1 of a 2-part story. So what may be confusing at first, maybe will be hopefully paid off in the second part. But we get the story of Brandon, a young Irishman, and what he goes through, and even though we're not quite sure where it's going at this point, what did you make of this storyline?
So I would have liked the storyline a lot more if we had not if we had not already set up that there's a new doctor
Yes.
and that we have that mystery. I don't think we need another mystery. I don't think we need another Cloudy. Now they're muddying the water more. There is an explanation, and we'll figure out that this has something to do with Gallifrey, and the whole things are not what you think they are. I get that,
Right.
but it just seemed it seemed out of place in this episode.
Yeah.
And I would have liked it better. I don't know how I would have liked it better. It felt like you were squeezing in a story, and since we didn't get enough of a payoff,
Right.
now we did get at the surprise reveal where he's grown old, but his father and the original guard captain
Yes.
didn't. They looked the same age, and they're putting him under these
Electrodes.
electric,
Yeah.
which look a little bit like a Cyberman
Yeah,
helmet.
yeah,
just
exactly.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you notice they had
Yeah.
that
So-
blue Cybermen light, on the controls
Yes.
behind them. So
Yeah.
somehow this ties in with the Cybermen. So what I'm thinking,
Okay, good.
this is my theory about Brendan.
Okay.
I think
Well, before you give me your theory,
okay.
hold on.
Yes.
I want to ask you.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm right,
Yeah.
but do you get how I'm going? This doesn't seem to flow well together.
Well,
Or did you find it easier to blend?
I'm willing to kind of give it a chance until next episode.
Okay.
Because
Okay, good deal. So am I.
Because I'm hoping there will be a payoff. Now, I'm sure a lot of impatient people are going, well, like there should have been some resolution to this particular thing, or at least an explanation of how it connects. And and I could kind of see that frustration, but I'm of that age where I'm willing to kind of like be patient, like okay, let's see where it's going. And the reason I think that is my theory is that what we're seeing here is the origin of Ashad, the lone Cyberman.
And that's what I thought it was too. Immediately when I saw that, that's what I thought we were seeing.
Yeah.
I think
what we're getting is Ashad's backstory, and
yes.
learning more about him, because they've taken great pains, and we'll talk about Ashad here in our fourth and final topic. But they've kind of gone to great pains to try to develop him as not just a generic villain. They've tried to give him a little bit of depth. And so I kind of wonder if this is part of it. And we'll find out that, Brendan is actually, Ashad, becomes Ashad at some point in the future, his future. Now, the question is what's going on with that whole interrogation thing. Maybe this is like some repressed memory, or like maybe he's been experimented on. I know there's a theory out there that maybe Brendan is the timeless child.
Yeah.
So that's certainly that theory to consider. I think that's at least a possibility. I'm not willing to discount it, but I kind of think with the little Cyberman metaphor, like you said, with the electrode headset and the little blue Cyberman lights that we saw. I'm thinking that it's tied in with the Cybermen, which makes me think this is a Ashad story that is being told here. And we'll get the conclusion of that next episode.
And maybe just because I see everything through Superman glasses.
Yes.
Thought a little bit
Clark
of
Kent glasses.
Jonathan and Martha Kent. Yes, Clark Kent glasses.
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning where he finds this baby, not rocketed from the sky, but just there.
Just showed up.
And the idea, and so I liked everything, and I found it frustrating we didn't get a payoff.
Yeah.
And that's why in a lot of ways, my grade is a tentative, incomplete, because I'm going to have to see where everything lands.
Yeah. I did I thought it was cool to see, like I said, finally getting Ireland on Doctor Who. I mean, it's
Yes.
only like the neighboring country. You think they would have been there by now.
And
But
they have not had
No.
other experience.
no, I've been dying
They've
for
never been
this.
to Ireland.
No, I've been waiting.
Wow, I would have.
It seems ridiculous to me that they haven't in all these years. And so finally it's like, oh, we get to see a little bit of Ireland. And, and Brendan, it's early 20th century Ireland. We get to see that he joins what's known as the An Garda Síochána, which is Irish for the Guardians of the Peace, which of course means the police.
See, I did not know that. I know they said, "Why do you want to be a guard?"
Right.
And
well, that's where the word guard
I
comes.
actually made a note of that.
Yeah, that's where the word guard comes from. Is Garda, which is what they refer to as the police over there. So if you see something that like a side of a van or something that says Garda in Ireland, that's usually a police van.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Or security.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So a little bit of trivia there for those who may not know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to be of service. See, you learned something today here on Next Stop Everywhere.
Yes.
All
Here we
right.
go.
Okay. But yeah, so I'm willing to give it a chance, and we'll see where it goes. Hopefully there's a payoff. We'll find out. I get you wanting to give this an incomplete. All right. Fourth and final topic.
There will be a payoff. I have
will
no doubt
it
there'll be a payoff.
Will it
we
be
have
satisfying?
to find, is it a good payoff?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good.
Fourth and final topic. We started talking about him already. Ashad, the lone Cyberman, and the other Cyberman. We get to introduce to some cyber drones. We get cyber warriors, a new version of, a new 2020 version of the Cybermen. And so what are your thoughts on all of this? We get a little flashback with the two Cybermen guards from the 2006 David Tennant era. The whole rise of the Cybermen, which is very appropriate considering this is Ascension of the Cybermen, which kind of means the same thing essentially, that they're both rising, ascending, take your pick. So what did you make of all that?
I am so hopeful that whatever the resolution in this story, we do not lose. As I hiccup in the middle of it, we do not lose this character.
Yes,
this
Ashad.
Ashad is an amazing villain.
Right.
I love the emotional thing that he's like, and the doctor calls about that. Cybermen are emotional. They are emotionless.
Yes.
They are all logic. You still have your rage. You still have your emotions. I think that makes him for an incredibly wonderful. It is kind of a little bit Master, a little bit Cyberman.
Yeah.
Throw in a little bit of the Dalek, and it's his own, almost a Brainiac as we go through Superman.
Yeah.
We continue. And by the way, at the very beginning, when we getting the close-up of the Cyberman head, was I was going, is that a Cyberman ship? Is that a Cyberman ship?
Yep.
Just like the Brainiac skull?
Let's talk. Before since you brought that up, that opening was awesome. That that pre-credit sequence where it's just like we're out in space, and presumably in the Cyberman graveyard out in space that we talked about, and this Cyberman head starts coming at us in slow motion, floating through space.
Yeah.
And then we go into the eye socket, and that leads us right into the opening credits. I love that. And you had Ashad's voiceover being all ominous and and talking about that the Cybermen will live again, and Ashad, I thought that was so cool. And Ashad makes, like you said, he's one of the greatest things to come out of the Chris Chibnall era, I think, because he's such a complex villain. And I love the fact that they've kind of made a Cyberman, because normally with the Cybermen, you usually have like a cyber leader, and it's not very, you don't really have like a connection there that you have with a villain with the Cybermen. But here, because of Ashad, it gives you someone to root against, someone to feel something about. And And Ashad being this religious fanatic is something I find really fascinating, especially considering it's the Cybermen. So whose idea is like, well, I'm the new cyber messiah. I'm going to bring about the new, golden age of the Cybermen.
Almost
maybe
Davos.
Maybe the silver age of the Cybermen, considering they're allergic to gold, right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and right, it's almost like they're on Davos, and it just really fits well.
You mean Davros?
Yeah. Davros, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm really I love him as a villain. I think this is really well done.
Yeah.
And like I said, I hope somehow when we wrap this up, we do not lose him as a future villain. Yeah.
Or at least if you get rid of him, if there's an ending with him, at least leave it open-ended so that he could potentially return at some future point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you've got a great villain here. Don't get rid of him. Don't kill him. If you kill him, you won't learn nothing. So don't kill this guy. I mean, you can maybe get rid of him for a while, stick him somewhere where he can't easily escape, but make sure he's able to come back if somebody wants to bring him back at some future point, because this guy is a home run as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, much better than the teeth guy, Tim somebody, whatever.
You mean Tim Shaw? Yeah, Tim or Tim Shaw is the but Tim Shaw,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean that guy has potential, but I don't think it was realized.
Right.
Not like it has been with Ashad. I think he's a much more, and we still don't know that much about him, which I think is. So I'm hoping the whole Brendan thing, is actually Ashad, because that would give him even more backstory and really develop him as a character. Yeah. So
I agree.
Very cool villain. I love the new look of the Cybermen. I love the big chunkier earpieces, because that's, as an 80s Doctor Who geek, that's my jam. I'm all about the 80s, so bring back something that kind of resembles the 80s Cybermen. I'm right there with you, and I think it's a really good redesign, because this is kind of like the first. This is kind of the first redesign we've had since Nightmare in Silver, back in the Matt Smith era. So,
and one of the things I really, really, one of the touches is the slight tear-looking thing.
Yeah,
that's at the
their signature
corner.
Look. Yeah,
I always think, that signature of it's almost like they are crying.
Yeah,
because as the human losing that, and I love that.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
That's the human
really
being, or living being crying inside that Cyberman suit, because they're trapped inside as a Cyberman. Yeah. So that's why. That's why they have that cool look. I love that, and it's very identifiable. Absolutely. All right. Anything else about this episode? Part 1.
No. I'm like I said. I'm ready. We're only, a few days away from getting to see it.
Right.
We'll get to do it.
Yep. Yeah. So it's coming up for us, and hopefully Chibnall sticks to the landing on this one. So fingers crossed, everybody.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see if it happens. So what's your favorite lines of the episode? Do you have any?
So not too many. I do love the line when we're seeing they're looking down and they're watching how he is treating the other Cybermen, and they go, "We're carrying a Cyberman that makes other Cybermen scream."
I love that line.
Like, oh, I know. Yes, that was from
line. Ravio. That was a really good line. Now, why? Oh, we didn't really talk about that. So a lot of people were confused about, well, what the hell is Ashad doing to those Cybermen? Why was that Cyberman screaming? What I'm thinking, and we don't know this yet, so hopefully we'll get an explanation. I think there should have been a little bit of an explanation there. Some fans have criticized that a little bit. I can see that. I think that Ashad is hacking into the Cybermen to kind of flip their emotions back on.
Okay. Ooh, I like that. That
so
would be good.
so that, or so that, he's essentially hacking them, and literally, in fact, literally hacking them, not just hacking them as a computer, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I think he's trying to turn their emotions on to kind of make them more hybrid, like he is. That's my theory. What's your
Yeah.
theory on that?
No, I think that's exactly right. I believe that is. And also maybe he just likes, he's
Yeah,
a
maybe.
little bit of Sid and likes playing with his toys.
Yeah, maybe.
You know?
Maybe he's a little bit of sadist. Yeah, or maybe he just kind of gets off on
Yeah.
it a little bit. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
I
hey, let me just grab you and just start digging into you because I'm
Yeah.
really messed up. So yeah,
Yeah.
a shot in his hobbies, I swear. All right. Any other
there you
quotes?
go.
Any other quotes?
The only other one I had is, and I already talked about it at the very beginning of the episode, when Graham's like, "We're still alive," and your alarmy goes, "Give it time." And Graham, "Wish you're a bit more glass half full, sunshine."
Yeah, that was good.
That was
Yeah.
That was great. I love Graham.
Only with Bradley Walsh's delivery of that is just so endearing. I
Yeah.
love Graham. I've always been, I'm on record of being a Graham fan ever since
Yeah.
we saw him in The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Just love the character,
Yeah.
and I'm really going to miss him when he goes. All right. My quotes. My quotes. The Doctor, saying, "This planet, this time period, we're in the very far future, the immediate aftermath of the Cyber Wars. The Cybermen have hunted down and wiped out the majority of the human race. Sorry, there was never a good time to break that news to you. If it's any consolation, it almost wiped out the Cybermen too." And then Graham kind of shoots back
Yes,
as like,
yeah,
no, it's not really that much consolation.
Yeah, and I did like that she realizing, oh, I've ripped off the Band-Aid a little too harsh.
Yes.
But it was good. Yeah, I like that.
And I have another doctor quote where she's talking really fast, and she says, "I used to hotwire warp drives for fun on weekends as a teenager. Not that we had weekends or teenagers. Basically, I used to do this a lot, and people got mad."
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
That was good.
That was good.
Really good.
Ashad confronting the Doctor. Ashad saying, "I was chosen to revive the glory of the cyber race." And the Doctor replies, "There's no glory in being a Cyberman, and there's definitely no glory with you." So that was cool.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right. So what's your rating for this one? I know this is a tough one because it's kind of an incomplete.
This is. So I am going to, there's an asterisk.
Yes.
This is an asterisk rating. But at this point, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 glasses half full, which I know seems counterproductive to be an optimistic. But I'm.
Why is it counterproductive to be an optimist? What can't we be optimistic?
No, but I'm giving such a
low grade.
A low rating using an optimistic, imagery.
All right.
I was disappointed in this one. I'm hopeful they're going to stick the landing, and then I'll come back and next week when we talk, I'll do a individual, rating and then the combined rating. But I'm going to stick with 6. How about you, Charles?
Okay, so I didn't kind of smooth over Captain Grumpy a little bit. Nope, didn't happen.
No.
Time.
I mean, I just okay. No. I'm not. I realize. I just am. It.
That's all right.
It left me unsatisfied. It
That's
wasn't
okay.
enough. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
It's perfectly okay.
Yes, I know.
I'm feeling a little bit more glass half full than you. I gave it 8.5 out of 10 cyber drones.
Nice.
I'm a huge Cybermen fan, so obviously I'm loving this. I love the new redesign. I love that we finally got Ireland. I was very happy about that. I love the tension. I love the Doctor scrambling, having to work hard for this one. It's not just coming really easy like some of the other episodes we got this season. And I like the fact that now it was only it could have been higher if we had gotten a little bit more answers early. Especially regarding the whole Brendan subplot. But, we'll see if they pay it off. Hopefully we can give this a really high rating next week. Hopefully everything.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it's all good next week. So fingers crossed as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Reverse the polarities this time. So because we're running a little long, Jesse and I were kind of talking a little bit earlier about some things. So we're going to reverse the polarity back to 1982. If you enjoyed this one, I definitely recommend Earthshock from the 6th serial of season 19, 1982, written by Eric Saward, which is a 5th Doctor story. And this is a big one because, just to kind of sum up really quickly, we had the 5th Doctor, Adric, Nyssa, and Tegan materializing in Earth in 2526. They end up in some caves, which kind of leads them to the Cybermen off, out in space, who apparently the Cybermen are hiding out in this space freighter. And so there's a lot of cool moments where the Cybermen burst out of these metal containers and start storming the ship, and they head to the control center of the ship, the command center, just kind of like they do here in the Ascension of the Cybermen. So there's references to the Cybermen being allergic to gold because the 5th Doctor's companion Adric has this gold badge for mathematical excellence that he kind of slips the Doctor at one moment to use at a key moment against the Cyber Leader, and the 5th Doctor smashes Adric's badge in. But through the course of the story, Adric ends up getting stranded on this spaceship where there's this bomb that can only be diffused mathematically. Now, thankfully, Adric's a mathematical genius, so he thinks he can solve it. But something happens, and the controls end up damaged, so that he'll never know if he was right. And he ends up stuck on there. And because the TARDIS has been damaged, because of the Cybermen, the TARDIS console, that the Doctor is not able to rescue Adric in time, and he dies. And in a really cool thing, they had the end credits roll in silence over a close-up of Adric's shattered badge. And it was very, very somber. It's something completely unlike we'd seen the ending for in any Doctor Who since, or at that time. So very cool story.
Absolutely.
Very cool Cybermen story. Earthshock. Check it out. Mandatory viewing as far as I'm concerned. All right. Listener feedback. We have Holly Mack and David K. Proctor. Do you want me to go ahead and read those? They're really quick. Do you want?
Yes, go ahead. Just read them both. Yes,
okay,
I have not logged in and seen them.
No worries. All right. So Holly Mack writes in. Hi, Holly. She says, "Hey, Charles and Jesse," and this is of course about Ascension of the Cybermen. Where to start with this episode? Okay, I thought the Daleks were the baddest baddies around, but the Cybermen in this episode are really giving them a run for their money, which I was always glad to see because I prefer Cybermen to Daleks personally. The Doctor wanting you to go it alone and protect her fam, I completely understand. I think losing Bill to the Cybermen is still fresh in the Doctor's memories. We talked about that last week. The cyber drones were very creepy. Make the Cybermats from a few years ago, and she kind of, I think, lost her train of thought there. Gallifrey coming back and the Master making a return appearance makes me excited and nervous all at the same time for next week's episode. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. So thank you, Holly. Great to hear from you.
Hey, thank you very much, Holly.
Top marks. And good. Nice to appreciate you referencing the Cybermats. Cyber drones, very, like they're essentially just kind of these floating heads that shoot laser beams. But I thought they looked pretty cool. Kind of just these floating heads going around. So I kind of dug the cyber drones. All right. And then lastly, we have David K. Proctor writing in once again. So hi, David.
Hello, David.
And he says, I'm really looking forward to your discussion of this episode. I'm so confused at the ending. I'm really confused with the fella that retires and then is electrocuted. Isn't that his adoptive father with him, and he is still young? Yes, it is. And we talked about why and my theory on who it is, and hopefully we help with your confusion. Hopefully. So he's like Gallifrey ? The Master ? I know this is how cliffhangers are supposed to work, but they've certainly built up expectations. Well, that's what you do with a cliffhanger, right? I'm going to reserve a rating and rate the whole two-parter together. That's fine. They have set it up with such great potential, but have a very difficult landing to stick. I agree with that.
Yes.
I'm extremely optimistic, and I see canon potentially irrevocably altered, but that has happened before and will again. And I know what he's talking about here. So he says, he ends, I suppose they could be in the distant past of Gallifrey, and if humans have escaped to there, we could learn why the Doctor once indicated human parentage on her mother's side. Thank you, David K. Proctor. So
good.
So the question is, this has been something fandom has been talking about / freaking out about the past week, is that are those humans, going through the boundary?
Yes.
Did they go back to Gallifrey's past? And are they, the last surviving humans, the kind of like, for lack of a better term, Adam and Eve of the Time Lords? So what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
We don't know. I think it's certainly a theory.
Yes.
I don't know. And in a lot of ways, we have talked about this. I don't want to know that much. I believe there is a lot to be said for having that
mystery,
vagueness of that. Yeah, the mystery. Yes.
Yeah, and I get that. That. Now it would. If this is indeed the case, it could be just complete misdirection here that Chibnall's doing.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't say that it's a definite at this point. But if Chibnall does do this thing, if he essentially pushes the button and goes, the canon reset button and goes, okay, yes, the last survivors of humanity are the progenitors of the Time Lords in a timey-wimey way. Because keep in mind, they'd have to go all the way back to Gallifrey's past. It kind of becomes a bootstrap paradox that the Time Lords, who have been around supposedly since the beginning of time, or very early on, for millennia, longer than humans have been on Earth or what have you. So they kind of create each other a little bit. But it would also explain some things like, hey, why do Time Lords look like humans visually? Right? Why aren't they blue with like 5 hands and 5 or 20 eyeballs or whatever? Why do they look like humans?
Yeah.
And why is the Doctor's favorite planet Earth? Why does the Doctor always have this fondness for Earth?
And why did the 8th Doctor say he was part human?
Yeah. That's been kind of written off as like, well, that was just a different writer coming up with an idea that hasn't really been used since. So, but
I understand, but it could explain why in his mind.
Yeah, he thought he was half human on his mother's side.
Yeah, like I'm a human, ancestor. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know. He has a lot of things going in the air. I think almost too many things.
Right.
And it will be difficult to tie them all down. But we'll see what happens.
Well, I think, like we've talked about this, I don't think he's going to wrap up all the storylines in this series 12 finale, because we still got the thing with with Jack. We've got the thing with the fugitive Doctor to resolve.
Yeah.
And those I don't think are going to get addressed at all this next week. So I think he's playing the long.
You don't think we're going to get a payoff?
I think he's
You don't think we'll get a payoff on the fugitive Doctor next Sunday?
We might get another
I will be very disappointed.
We might get another tease, but I think, with Jodie Whittaker coming back next year, I think, the way Chibnall has written this out is as a 3-season story.
Okay.
J. Michael Straczynski did a 5-season story with Babylon 5.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
So this isn't unheard of by any means.
No.
But it may frustrate a lot of viewers that, hey, why aren't we getting payoffs to a lot of these questions?
And as long as we get some movement, I'm okay with it. If we get some movement, then if we get the announcement the Doctor will return on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Because I realize New Year's Day, I want a Christmas special again.
Okay.
Especially if the rumor is that it's going to be spring or even summer 2021 before we get more Doctor.
Right.
I want a Christmas special.
Yeah. I think, last rumor I heard was August. So, But, I think, it's possible, Christmas we could end up with, that could be where they pick up with Captain Jack and the Fugitive Doctor. I think that would be a good place to do it.
That would be.
So
I think absolutely
maybe that's
good.
the Christmas special. So.
And I think I will be fine with that. If they don't answer anything, but they kind of tease that a little bit and promise us that in a Christmas special, I'd be good.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
All right.
So, Charles.
Yes.
We have gone long, but we should take a few minutes.
We're allowed.
We always have great people. Exactly. We have great people reaching out to us and giving us feedback. But in case someone is out there being shy and saying, I don't know, how can I tell Charles and Jesse what I think? How could they?
You're all kinds of adorable. So everybody.
Charles loves. Yes.
Next Stop Everywhere, smg@gmail.com. Next Stop Everywhere, smg for Southgate Media Group @gmail.com. Please write to us. We'd love to hear from you. We love hearing from Holly and David, but we want to hear from more of you because we're greedy like that.
Absolutely.
And then you can reach out to us on Twitter @NextStopSMG on Twitter or Facebook, of course, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. And Instagram Next Stop Everywhere podcast. So please check us out there. We'd definitely appreciate it. Otherwise, Jesse, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
You can find me at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Jesse Jackson. You can hear Charles and I right now. Our other episodes other podcasts are kind of in sabbatical, but they are there. If you are the Phantom Zone, where you're finding you want to check out Krypton, we talked about that. If you want to do Watchmen, those episodes are there. We're Charles and I, the Phantom Zone podcast. If you are just recently discovered the DC Universe online streaming service, we have discussed both seasons of Titans and Doom Patrol on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. So then my other podcast, and I want to talk a little bit specifically about this, we have a timey-wimey thing. Set Listing Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast. Holly from Wisconsin.
Yes.
I talked to her a few weeks ago. On Tuesday, her episode will go live. So you get to hear Holly talk about Bob Seger and Bruce Springsteen. So that's really fun. And then speaking of Ireland.
No love for the Silver Bullet Band?
Yeah, she'll talk a little about that.
Okay.
Last week, Tom McCormick from Ireland was a guest and was absolutely wonderful. So if you love Ireland. And then coming up, probably in a couple weeks, a great episode, a fan named Al Doyle from Belfast.
Nice. Northern Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah. Grew up during the Troubles.
Okay.
As he shared with me.
Right.
And he talks about his dream of Bruce had never played Northern Ireland.
Right.
And he said that when he saw Bruce, he always dreamed of one day Bruce going to Northern Ireland and playing at his beloved home, Belfast, and he talks about when Bruce finally did and what that meant to him. So since you talked about your Irish roots and how much you mean, this past week was a very Irish set listing Bruce and coming up. And then Holly was amazing. If you guys, she's been on the show with us and talked Doctor Who. We
need her back on the show.
Yeah, we do. If you've enjoyed talking to Holly, jump over to Set Listing Bruce and listen to her. We may even thrown in a few Doctor Who discussions during our music talk. Charles, how about yourself? Where can they find your fine work?
Well, I don't know how to top that. Jeez. All right. As for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog, Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, including your Doctor Who, your Torchwood, your Sarah Jane Adventures, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news, news of my other podcasts for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned The Fandom Zone podcast that I did with Jesse, or you can go all the way back to our old episodes that I did with Karen Lindsay, if you so desire, where we talked a lot of CW TV and all kinds of comic book television shows. Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, which is currently on hiatus, as Jesse mentioned, but hopefully Doom Patrol Season 2 will be coming up in the near future, so we'll resurrect that when the time is right. Otherwise, you can get caught up if you so desire and get ready for the new season of Titans and Doom Patrol.
You and I will have to discuss offline.
Yeah.
Is Stargirl going to be Fandom Zone or Titan Talk? Because
Fandom Zone, because it doesn't have any Titans connection.
I don't know. Stargirl seems to fit that feel. So anyway, I get you. Yes. I understand.
Yes.
You're a purist.
Well, Doom Patrol it's got Cyborg, so that's the Titans connection there. But Stargirl, not so much. Mm-hmm. That I classify as just comic book TV, so we can talk about that on Phantom Zone. But also Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse. We talk about all things David Lynch, Twin Peaks, etc., etc. Zan just appeared recently on Happiness and Darkness with our own DJ Nick.
Yes, she did.
And had a ball talking that. They talked Flash Gordon, which I thought was really cool. I listened to that.
That was a good episode. I agree.
So very cool. Always great to hear Zan. So if you enjoy Zan, when she's here on Next Stop Everywhere, please check us out on Ghostwood because she's just one of the coolest people you'll ever get to meet.
Yeah, I need to get her on Set Listing Bruce. She's got to be passionate about some band.
She is a huge music geek. She could probably talk your ear off.
I bet she could,
because she's a huge music collector.
Good.
Otherwise, everybody, thank you so much for listening. And
Charles,
next time on Next Stop Everywhere.
I'm sorry, Charles.
I'm rolling.
I know, but hold tight.
Yeah.
I know we're long.
I'm trying to wrap this up.
I know. I'm sorry. You probably have to pee.
No,
I do. I want to tell people that
I don't have your old man bladder. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. Charles and I have spent time, and I think, I don't want to oversell, but we have a great off-season program planned.
Yeah, we're planning this out. The only thing, we have one episode that's kind of like a gap in our schedule that we need to figure out what to do with before we get into some really cool stuff.
He and I both, we set some time and
so Jesse, I'm asking you to think about what you want to do that final gap in the schedule. You saw that blank space, hopefully.
We did, but it you know how last off season I kind of wanted to take a step away. I have gotten revitalized.
Yes.
We have a great
regenerated
plan.
If you will.
Yes, regenerate. Yeah. I just think we have such a great plan on what we're doing for the off season. It'll be lots of fun discussions, a lot of great episodes, a diversity of episodes I think are really fun. So I wanted to tease the audience that we already thinking, and of course we are trying to do our traditional end of season wrap up with special guests.
Yeah. So we're, just to give a little bit more of a tease.
Yes, please.
We're planning to schedule out to August right now.
Yes, exactly.
So Now the question is whether we're going to have special guest companions in the episodes that we're planning.
And
along with us. So
we'd love that
so,
if people want to join
So once
us,
we find it, figure out what we want to do with that empty one episode, then that should kind of finalize the schedule, and I could kind of post it for everybody to see, and then see if anybody kind of wants to join us, and then we can kind of go the discussion from there. I think
that'd be great.
So as maybe hopefully some of these episodes might appeal to one or two of you out there, special guest companions, and we've also got plans for DJ Nick coming up here in a couple weeks, but we're going to kind of just tease that for now. And then next time on Next Step Everywhere, we're going to talk The Timeless Children, this big Series 12 finale. Hopefully it sticks the landing. Although in the description, this is going to hurt, quote unquote. In the epic and emotional series finale, the Cybermen are on the march as the last remaining humans are ruthlessly hunted down. Graham, Ryan, and Yaz face a terrifying fight to survive. Civilizations fall. Others rise anew. Lies are exposed. Truths are revealed. Battles are fought. Dogs and cats live together. Mass hysteria. And for the Doctor, trapped and alone, nothing will ever be the same again. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
So that's what's coming up next time. Jesse, thank you so much. I know we ran long, but we had a lot to talk about.
Well, thank you, Charles. As always, you are a great friend, and no one knows behind the scenes how much work you do and how flexible you are on schedules, and it is greatly appreciated. You are my favorite Doctor Who companion. And I thank you. And listeners, I really are. We thank you for sticking around with us this season, and hang with us as we finish this off. And I am truly ecstatic about what we got coming up.
We got
in the
big stuff coming
spring
up,
and summer. Yeah, exactly.
So stay tuned. We'll have more next week. So come on back for episode 174, The Timeless Children. It's going to be big. Right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.